Discover how a pajama-clad woman transformed a blind date into an incredible journey of love. Sarah stood in front of her closet, wrestling with an impossible choice. The lively chatter at the diner called her from beyond the door, but she was anchored by her own self-doubt. It was just a blind date, one set up by her relentless sister who believed that love still had room for a single mother like her. Yet, as she surveyed the rows of blouses and skirts, her gaze fell on the soft, worn pajamas hanging off the back of the door, the relics of countless late nights spent balancing homework with her kids and working late into the wee hours. Tonight, she wore her comfort zone like armor, shielding her from the potential heartbreak that love could bring. As she arrived at the diner, the scent of greasy fries was both inviting and horrifying, a reminder of her past romantic escapades that ended in disappointment. She felt an overwhelming wave of anxiety hit her as she walked past tables filled with smiling couples. What was she doing here? Was tradition so important that she had to compromise her own comfort for a chance at love? Mark, with his disheveled hair and worn shirt, looked equally out of place as he waved from their booth. He offered a warm, if awkward, smile, and it struck her that he was just as uncertain about this evening. As they fumbled through introductions, Sarah found herself questioning what she had gotten into. Would this be another disappointment to add to her list? Their conversation started tentatively, both of them teetering on the edge of vulnerability. The waitress brought over their plates, and as they dug into their meals, they fell into a rhythm. They ventured into deeper territory, discussing their disillusionment with societal expectations. Sarah grappled with the weight of failed relationships, memories of her ex-husband's neglect, and the burden of raising 2 children alone while pursuing her nursing degree. Mark shared stories of his childhood and a father whose dreams always overshadowed his own. "I have dreams too," he asserted with an intensity that made Sarah lean forward, intrigued. In that moment, she found herself captivated by the comfort of shared aspirations and the synergy of their different worlds. But amidst the laughter were placating distractions for both, masking their mutual dread. Before they could dive deeper, Sarah felt a sudden wave of fear. She stood at the crossroads of heartbreak and hope. Could she really entwine her life with anyone else? Would Mark, despite his charm, bring her more pain? The question gnawed at her insides as a revelation about his past surfaced, his struggles with money and a crumbling family dynamic. The laughter faded, swallowed by an ache of foreboding that settled heavily in her chest. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Sarah's heart raced anew, uncertainty colliding with familiarity. She saw glimpses of what a relationship could mean, but the very thought made her nauseous. She could lose herself, her routine, her carefully built world. The walls she had constructed around her heart felt fortified, yet there was a yearning that beckoned her to let someone in. Would she gamble on love again or retreat like she always did, wrapping herself in the safety of solitude and responsibility? At that moment, Sarah grappled with an unyielding truth. She couldn't keep running from the ghosts of her past. Just as the laughter threatened to break through, it became clear that this encounter with Mark could irrevocably change everything. Would she find the courage to dismantle her walls, or would the shadows of her past drag her back into solitude? The air pulsed with tension, leaving Sarah teetering on the edge of discovery. The silence that followed felt heavy, like the air before a storm. Sarah's mind raced, contemplating the myriad of responses. Mark's intensity poked at the edges of her well-guarded heart, and the realization that he, too, bore scars left her both vulnerable and cautious. Was it possible that this blind date could lead to something real, or was she allowing hope to blind her from the truth? As they exchanged stories, Sarah noticed small bits of herself woven into Mark's experiences: the struggle for validation, the ache of past relationships that felt hauntingly familiar. Yet, the very thought of opening up about her own pain was terrifying. What if she revealed too much? What if vulnerability only led her down the same regrettable paths? Shaking her head, she decided to shift the narrative ever so slightly. You're right, everyone seems to expect so much from us, she said cautiously, testing the waters. I often wonder if I'll ever be enough. The admission surprised her as it slipped out, unguarded. She was risking transparency, one of the hardest things for her to offer. Mark leaned back, absorbing her words. It's easy to feel that way. But maybe enough isn't the goal. Perhaps it's about being true to ourselves. His voice had a gentle cadence of belief that echoed within her. For the first time, she felt like the weight of her fears was shared, if only for a fleeting moment. In that fragile space of honesty, Sarah observed Mark closely, noting how his eyes flickered with concern, empathy painting his face. A knot in her stomach loosened but quickly reformed with the fear that vulnerability might cost her dearly. Would he see the cracks, the imperfections? Would he want to walk this tumultuous path alongside her? The clatter of dishes around them and the bustle of patrons faded into the background as their conversation deepened. With every new revelation, Sarah found herself grappling with the idea of transformation not just for herself, but for both of them. If Mark was indeed grappling with his own demons, perhaps together they could forge a new narrative, one freer from the shackles of their pasts. But could she trust him? Could she trust herself? Suddenly, Sarah's gaze drifted to the diner's neon lights, a pulsating reminder of the world outside. She recalled the dreams she stuffed away for years, having convinced herself that practicality was all that mattered. The nursing program, the children's needs, balancing everything while still nursing her own heartache, it was exhausting. Mark's perspective beckoned to the part of her that longed for growth beyond her day-to-day duties as a mother, a student, and a caretaker. Could he be the catalyst for that change? Could we dare to dream together? She thought, equating it to a gamble one she wasn't sure she was ready to take. She felt an itch at the back of her mind, that familiar fear taunting her. But there was something electrifying about this shared moment, sparking a longing from the depths of her heart. Maybe it's time to push past our limits, she said quietly, a fragile hope swirling inside her. The boundaries she had erected around her heart began to tremble at the notion of collaboration rather than isolation. Was she really ready for this? As they both sat in the unfolding silence, a new understanding simmered between them. The shadows of their past loomed, yet the prospect of discovery glimmered tantalizingly on the horizon. Together, they could explore uncharted waters, but an unspoken question lingered. Could they truly confront the personal truths they had been avoiding for far too long, or would their fears lead them to part ways, once again alone and haunted by what could have been? The weight of decision hung in the air like an unsung melody, and as Sarah gathered her courage, she realized the moment had arrived to write her own story. Would she embrace this journey or retreat into the comfort of her pajamas? Mark's gaze rested on Sarah, and she could feel the weight of his unspoken questions echoing her own. The moment hung suspended, a tense bridge between possibility and retreat. Sarah couldn't shake the nagging voice in her head, that familiar companion whispering fears of inadequacy. Yet, beneath the anxiety lay an ember of yearning, the desire to break free from the confines of her fears and embrace something raw and uncharted. What do you want, Sarah? She questioned herself internally, a tight ball of emotions tightening her chest. Her initial instinct was to retreat, to assure herself that the safety of silence and solitude was preferable to the potential heartache of connection. Comfort knew her intimately, wrapping her like a well-worn blanket. But tonight, something felt different. Mark's openness ignited a flicker of courage that was both terrifying and exhilarating. The waitress approached, breaking the silence with a refill of coffee, but it was a mere distraction compared to the storm brewing inside her. With every sip, Sarah contemplated Mark's words and the unguarded territory they had inadvertently uncovered. I often wonder if we can truly find ourselves in the eyes of another, she mused softly, the thoughts spilling from her lips as though sharing a secret. Mark responded with a nod, encouraging her to continue. I think that's part of it, he said, but we also have to know ourselves before we can genuinely connect. It's about recognizing what lies beneath all those layers we've built. She felt both seen and exposed. Could she peel back those layers? Would revealing her past, her struggles, her dreams, and her hesitations allow genuine connections to bloom? Memories flooded in. She recalled her struggles as a nursing student, the long nights juggling assignments and motherhood, sacrificing her dreams one day at a time. She had buried so much in her quest to fulfill expectations that she could have easily become a stranger to herself. I once loved photography, she said suddenly, surprising them both. Before life became busy. The admission was a revelation, a deep-seated truth that had been buried under practicalities. The mere act of expressing it felt liberating, as if she were taking a step toward reclaiming a piece of herself long forgotten. Mark's brows lifted. Really? What did you love about it? Sarah paused, the memories swirling vividly. Finding beauty in moments that seem ordinary. Capturing perspectives others might overlook. It was my escape. Why did you stop? She hesitated, an avalanche of vulnerability crashing over her. I thought it was impractical. That my responsibilities weighed more heavily than my passions. His expression softened. But what if you could find a way to integrate both? Maybe, just maybe, embracing your passions could enrich your responsibilities. A flicker of hope ignited within her. Could she truly chase after her dreams while tending to her duties? It felt radical yet exhilarating. Mark's encouragement was a doorway, presenting a world where she could be both mother and artist, caretaker and dreamer. As the conversation deepened, Sarah sensed her emotional walls beginning to dissolve. She could imagine a life where she carved out spaces for her passions, glimpses of the woman she had silenced and replaced with obligation. The power of his unwavering support sparked a burgeoning resolve within her. Maybe it's time to confront that part of myself I've ignored for too long, she said, her voice steadier this time. The conviction of her words surprised her. Let us make a pact then, Mark suggested, to support each other in pursuing our passions. Rather than retreat into what feels safe, let us push each other toward growth. With a firm nod, Sarah felt the electric hum of agreement swirl between them. It was a pact of possibility, a commitment to explore who they could become together. As they stood to leave the diner, a sudden whirlwind of thoughts ignited her heart raced with not just excitement, but trepidation. What would tomorrow bring? Could a mere blind date spark a transformation that would encourage both of them to leap boldly into the future? As they stepped out into the cool night air, the streetlights flickered like stars, illuminating their path. Sarah's heart thrummed with a symphony of hope, determination, and a whisper of fear. Would she take the next step, shattering the confines of her past, or would she allow old habits to resurface? The night was still young, and with it lay an uncertain journey ahead. Would she dare take the leap towards her authentic self, guided by the curious glimmer in Mark's eyes? The following morning, sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating the dust motes that danced in the air. Sarah stood at the counter, a mug of coffee warming her hands, wrestling with the sensations from the night before. A part of her felt invigorated. The pact with Mark hung heavily in her mind, its implications vibrantly alive. Another part, however, simmered with doubt, questioning the feasibility of blending her aspirations with the relentless rhythm of her daily life. Amidst the mundane task of preparing breakfast for her daughter, those scattered moments of clarity from last night fought to establish a foothold. She could practically hear Mark's words repeating themselves. Embracing your passions could enrich your responsibilities. The thought was a lifeline, yet it felt distant and nebulous, teasing at the edges of her consciousness. She needed a plan. Her daughter burst into the room, clad in pajamas, her hair a wild halo of curls. Mommy, can we go to the park today? Instinctively, Sarah's resolve to carve out time for herself slipped further down her priority list, eroded by the irresistible pull of motherhood. But then an image of her camera flashed in her mind, the way it once forged connections with the world around her. Of course, but can we do something fun like take pictures while we're there? The question sparked a thrilling yet subtle shift within her. A simple idea, but it was a step toward integrating her passion and responsibilities. As her daughter nodded enthusiastically, Sarah felt a semblance of empowerment weaving into her spirit. At the park, the vivacity of her daughter provided an electric backdrop as Sarah grabbed her camera. She slowly adjusted the settings, every click of the shutter an invigorating reminder of her love for photography. Capturing her daughter's laughter, the dappled sunlight playing on the leaves, and the chirping birds became a cathartic experience. Each frame brought her closer to the artist she had suppressed for too long. Yet, amid this joy, Familiar shadows of uncertainty crept in. How would she balance pursuing photography with her nursing career and motherhood? Was it even practical? Moments of doubt began to intrude, echoes of her friends and family still laced with skepticism regarding artistic pursuits. These voices caused her to hesitate, to doubt. "Mommy, look." Her daughter held up a makeshift crown of dandelions. "You have to take a picture." The simplicity of play ignited a wave of creativity within Sarah. Translating sporadic moments into art was rejuvenating. Chasing the light with her camera allowed her to reconnect with the joyful, instinctive parts of herself. She started capturing the essence of whimsy in their outing, sending the images to Mark as she had once done to family and friends. But amid the laughter and joy, the deeper confrontation loomed. Was nostalgia enough to sustain her? There would need to be tangible action. A call to local galleries, workshops, or even online platforms to share her work. Taking more than mere snapshots, but cultivating her vision. Returning home, her heart possessed an urgency pulsating beneath the surface. It was time to break through the veil of doubt that cloaked her past decisions. Yet, as she placed her camera on the counter, a visceral fear held her back. What if stepping into this new life meant confronting the critical voices she had evaded? That night, she sat at her desk, the faint glow of her laptop illuminating the determination in her eyes. She hesitated before striking keys to draft her intentions. This moment stretched in front of her like a long, dark tunnel leading towards the light of possibility. Perhaps this was the moment she had been waiting for, the juncture where she could redefine her identity. She took a deep breath, fingers poised, and finally began to type. Each word became a decision to reclaim her voice. But as she pressed send on her first online submission, a wave of panic surged. What if she revealed too much? The moment of truth had arrived, and for the first time in years, the weight of her past felt less like a shackle and more like a stepping stone. Tomorrow would force her to confront the echoes of her inadequacy head-on. Would she embrace the potential that terrified her so deeply, or allow her doubts to silence her once more? Through the door, she could hear the soft buzz of her phone, Mark's name flashing across the screen. Would he inspire her to plunge further into the light, or would his interest merely remind her of all she had to lose? The morning brought with it a cacophony of sounds. Birds chirped outside while her daughter, already awake, noisily rummaged around in the living room. Sarah's heart raced with a sense of anticipation and dread. Today could mark the beginning of something new. Yet the weight of unseen expectations pressed against her chest. As she poured her coffee, the warm aroma wrapped around her like a comforting blanket, a vital anchor for what lay ahead. The screen of her phone blinked with a message from Mark. "Did you send it? Excited to see what you've created." She could feel the buzz of exhilaration mixed with her trepidation. Did he genuinely appreciate her art, or were her photographs merely another hobby in a world filled with noise? Determined to push through her internal hesitations, she glanced at the images she had submitted. Each photograph felt like a piece of her soul exposed, the innocence of her daughter's laughter frozen in time. But the shadows of doubt whispered in her mind, what if it was all just mediocre? "Mommy, can we bake cookies today?" Her daughter's voice rang out, an innocent request that struck a dissonant chord within Sarah. Baking cookies could easily replace the direction she wanted to pursue. But couldn't the act of baking become another conduit for her creativity? She could document the process, finding beauty in the flower-covered kitchen and joyful chaos. She smiled at her daughter's enthusiasm. "Absolutely. But let us create a little art with them too," Sarah suggested, her heart racing again. This melding of motherhood and passion stoked the flames of determination within her. As they prepped the kitchen together, ingredients scattered like a mini creation zone, Sarah felt the walls of her old fears beginning to crumble. While mixing the dough, her mind wandered to ideas of potential showcases for her photographs. It wasn't merely a matter of artistry, these were complex narratives of love, joy, and resilience. She envisioned hosting a little gallery setup at home, inviting family and friends to engage with her work. Each conversation sparked by her visual stories could bring her a step closer to realism and respect in her craft. "Look, Mommy, I'm making a cookie in the shape of a camera." Her daughter held up a doughy, misshaped version of the object, a proud grin plastered across her face. Sarah laughed, a genuine response that suddenly caught her off guard. She felt her spirit lift. Cookies baked and laughter shared, Sarah felt lighter. Perhaps the key to her burgeoning identity didn't lie in cutting off her previous responsibilities. Instead, she could intertwine her passions and motherhood, finding artistry in everyday moments. Yet, despite this uplifting realization, another fear loomed. Was she asking too much from a single life? She wanted this new journey to inspire not just her, but her daughter as well. Later, as she flipped through social media, Sarah spied posts from aspiring photographers sharing their journeys. The commonality among them seemed to be a thread of resilience, a willingness to face rejection, and an eagerness to learn. Could she internalize that? There was bravery in vulnerability, she noted. But would she, Sarah, the cautious nurse, the doting mother, have the courage to step out of her comfort zone and embrace the possibility of failure? What would happen when her photographs received criticism? Would that break her or build her? A presence settled within her, subtly urging her onward. Perhaps danger lay not in the pursuit itself, but in remaining stagnant. She could pivot from merely existing to living fully, passionately, and honestly. As she drifted into sleep, an image hovered in her thoughts. A gallery filled with her photographs and people engaging with the story captured in each frame. The potential of bringing her aspirations to life pulsated like a heartbeat, echoing with each breath she took. That evening, as she lay in bed contemplating all that lay ahead, her phone buzzed again. It was a new message from Mark. "I'd love to discuss your work further in person. Let us grab coffee tomorrow." Her heart jolted. Was this a doorway opening, or another test of her will to pursue her dreams? The prospect of reshaping her path intensified the chaos of her thoughts. Tomorrow could become a pivotal moment, yet it also loomed as a stark reminder of her vulnerabilities. Would she sabotage her own progression with fear, or would she step boldly toward her aspirations? As the first rays of dawn peeked through the curtains, Sarah awoke, her heart racing with anticipation. Today held both promise and despair, a mixed bag of emotions wrapped in uncertainty. She lay there, staring at the ceiling, swirling thoughts racing through her mind. What would coffee with Mark lead to? Would he find her work deserving of attention, or would he be polite and nonchalant, reducing her dreams to a mere footnote in his busy life? She swung her legs over the side of the bed, the cool floor grounding her. Each morning required its ritual: a cup of coffee, the daily check of her phone. But this morning was different. Today held an unsettling gravity. The photographs she had shared felt like her heartbeat caught in digital frames. Now, they were veering toward public scrutiny. Moments before her daughter burst into the room, Sarah was lost in thought, grappling with what the day might hold. Her reflection held the question she struggled with. Was she ready for this? The tense anticipation of potentially being seen, understood, and maybe even criticized gnawed at her. "Mommy, are we going to do art today?" Her daughter chirped, energy crackling through her small body. That innocent enthusiasm washed over Sarah and stoked the flames within her. "Let us be artists in our own right," she silently resolved. After breakfast, they decided to turn their kitchen into a makeshift studio. Flour dust danced in the air as they set to decorating their previously baked cookies, creating edible art that sparked joy and creativity. Each glaze and sprinkle felt like a step toward reconciling who she was with who she wanted to be. Later, as Sarah clicked photos of their whimsical cookie creations, she found her mind shifting from anxiety about Mark to celebration of her artistry. But a flicker of doubt still nagged her. Was she just chasing a transient pastime, hiding behind a lens while neglecting her responsibilities as a mother and a professional? During the brief moments of silence that crept in, these thoughts clawed at her confidence. After their baking session, Sarah prepared for her meeting. Standing in front of the mirror, she adjusted her outfit, a blend of comfortable and confident. The reflection staring back was a mix of excitement and vulnerability. Above all, she felt the weight of potential. The moment with Mark could push her ambitions forward, but the possibility of disappointment loomed heavier. As she arrived at the cafe, the ambience buzzed with the casual hum of conversation. Sarah spotted Mark at a corner table, his expression welcoming but unreadable. Each step towards him felt monumental. The blend of fear and hope intertwined in her chest. What would this conversation reveal? "Hey, Sarah, I can't wait to talk about your work," Mark exclaimed, standing to greet her. His enthusiasm was palpable, and for a brief moment, her internal dialogue quieted. They settled into their seats, and the conversation began to flow. Sarah spoke passionately about her photographs, how they captured intimate moments of motherhood and life. Mark listened intently, offering insights and asking questions that encouraged her to delve deeper. But as the conversation turned to expectations and future plans, shadows of doubt flitted across her mind again. Could she really position herself as an artist? The stakes felt higher. Would she articulate her vision clearly enough? When Mark critiqued a couple of her images, fears sprang back. Each comment felt like both a step towards growth and a cut against her artistess heart. As they wrapped up, Mark leaned in. You have something genuine here, Sarah. Just remember that art is subjective. What matters is that your vision shines through. His words echoed in her thoughts on the way home. Maybe the criticisms were paths leading to growth rather than walls keeping her out. That evening, as her daughter gazed at the colorful cookie creations, Sarah realized something profound. Her art connected her not only to her dreams, but also to her daughter. Emboldened, she decided not to just photograph her experiences, but to explore them in depth over the coming weeks. The possibility of collaboration, of showcasing her journey as both a mother and an artist, intertwined in her mind. As Sarah drifted to sleep later that night, the weight of doubt felt lighter. Clarity began to dawn, but a fresh wave of excitement mingled with anxiety washed over her. It was time to engage with her work fully, to commit, and possibly face the fears that came with vulnerability. The path forward wouldn't be linear, but the potential glimmered within reach. How would she showcase her art and her family? The idea stirred within her a secret plan forming. The morning after, as she prepared to share her vision with the world, a message from Mark came through. I've got a proposition for you. Can we talk again soon? Her heart raced. What lay behind this new inquiry? The door may be opening wider, but what lay beyond was shrouded in uncertainty. The sound of her phone vibrating on the nightstand jolted Sarah from her restless dreams. The message from Mark lingered in her mind, stirring an urgent curiosity. Would this be the opportunity she had been waiting for? She rolled over, the familiar warmth of her daughter's blanket tangled around her, but the giddiness bubbling within pushed her to rise. Morning routine became a blur as excitement propelled her forward. She felt unsteady, perched at the brink of a new chapter, but the uncertainty was exhilarating. Was she merely teetering on the edge of naivete, or was this the moment she had subconsciously woven into her fabric of dreams? After a hastily prepared breakfast, Sarah grabbed her camera and dodged the remnants of flowers still scattered from the previous day's cookie art session. She wanted to be prepared for whatever discussion would unfold. Inspiration ignited in her mind as she envisioned this meeting with Mark, a chance to widen the scope of her art, to include stories of motherhood and self-identity. The cafe across town buzzed with energy, a stark contrast to her quiet home. As she entered, the sense of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods enveloped her, intensifying her anticipation. She spotted Mark already seated, scrolling through his notes. His demeanor radiated professionalism, yet she also sensed an openness that made her feel at ease. Good to see you again, Sarah, he greeted, looking up with a smile that offered reassurance. They exchanged pleasantries, but there was a noticeable tension. She felt she was presenting her craft before an esteemed jury. I was thinking about what you said last time about art being subjective, she began, her voice steadier than expected. The words flowed as she shared ideas. I want to document life through my perspective as both a mother and an artist, merging the mundane with the extraordinary. The enthusiasm in her voice surprised even her. Mark nodded, his expression thoughtful. That's a powerful angle. Have you considered how you want to present this collection? Can you visualize it? Sarah paused, a rush of self-doubt bubbling up. I want to create something intimate, a narrative that showcases how simple moments can be profound. I'm just afraid it might come across as trivial. Like, who would care about my everyday life? The confession felt raw, but liberating. Finding beauty in the ordinary isn't trivial, Mark replied, leaning forward, his eyes piercing through her insecurities. Many artists face that resistance, but remember, every artist begins somewhere. The key is authenticity. This thought lingered in her mind, challenging the internal barriers that had confined her. She had always seen her art as minor compared to the grand narratives others presented. But perhaps her stories of motherhood were not mere byproducts of her existence, but a source of inspiration. As the conversation ebbed and flowed, sparks of ideas ignited in her head. Collaborating with Mark could lead to something transformative, an exhibit that highlighted the paradox of motherhood, the messy, the beautiful, the heart-wrenching. It was a thrilling idea, yet it frightened her. Before she could dive deeper, Mark interrupted her swirling thoughts. What if I helped you develop this project? We could showcase it together in a series that captures exactly what you've been speaking about. Let us give your audience a lens into your world. His proposition knocked the wind out of her. Could she really invite someone into this intimate space of her life? That could be incredible, Sarah breathed, her heart racing. But another thought loomed behind her excitement. The personal stakes felt immense. Exposing her world would mean confronting her vulnerabilities, her imperfections, and her fears head-on. What if she failed? What if it was more than she could handle? Mark must have sensed her hesitation. Remember, every journey has its hazards. But growth isn't about knowing all the answers. It's about embracing the questions. With these words echoing in her mind, Sarah felt a shift, an internal decision to embrace this opportunity with courage rather than fear. Maybe this was to be her moment of truth, her chance to break free from the constraints she had put on herself. Leaving the cafe, she started to envision the paths this collaboration could open. The duality of the mother and artist coalescing into a singular, vivid identity was not just an idea, it was a journey she was willing to embrace. Later that night, as she sat surrounded by scattered photographs and notes, her heart raced with anticipation. What would it mean to unveil her world? The excitement morphed into a sense of urgency, a primal push to explore this newfound identity. But just as she began to outline her ideas, another message pinged into her phone, this one from an unknown number. We need to talk. I know what you're planning. Her stomach dropped. Who was this? What had she inadvertently stirred? The unexpected twist hung thick in the air, creating a static buzz of concern within her. As doubts crept back in, Sarah felt the weight of a new dilemma begin to form. What had she truly unleashed with this decision? The journey was just beginning, but the moment of reckoning loomed nearer. The next morning, Sarah's mind raced. The message from the unknown number replayed in her head like a broken record, intertwining with the excitement of her collaboration with Mark. Thoughts collided as she prepared breakfast. Sliced fruit and toast had become her morning routine, but today they felt insipid against the backdrop of her swirling emotions. She could barely concentrate on the tasks before her. As she spread peanut butter on a slice of toast, the knife slipped. The jar tumbled to the floor, splattering bits of sticky mess all around. How poetic, she mused, a reflection of her internal chaos. Something beneath her calm surface was brewing, an unsettling understanding that stepping into the light could bring shadows she wasn't prepared to confront. After gathering herself amidst the remnants of breakfast, the allure of her camera beckoned. It was an extension of her, but in the midst of impending vulnerability, it became a symbol of both her aspiration and her anxiety. The urge to capture moments sustained her, pushing her toward exploring the world through a lens that balanced the beauty of motherhood with her artistic vision. As she scrolled through her recent photos, a single image caught her eye. Her daughter, sleeping peacefully, face illuminated by the soft morning light. There was a rawness in that moment, a reminder that the simplest frames could evoke profound emotion. With a renewed sense of purpose, she envisioned not just an exhibit, but a tapestry of lived experiences woven with her daughter's chaotic charm and her own artistry. The creative drive that surged within propelled her to draft what she called the Mother's Lens project, committing to create a new image every day for the next month, showcasing the duality of mundane battles and magical moments. But beneath that determination lay a wish to insulate herself from the potential fallout of sharing her truth. As she jotted down her plans and ideas, her heart raced. Despite the clarity she felt, the tension from that cryptic message loomed large. Who could know what she was planning? She had shared her dreams with very few and already felt vulnerable. Should she respond? The question persisted prominently in her mind. Did engaging with this unknown sender jeopardize the delicate thread of control she strove to maintain over her personal narrative? An arm wrestle began in her mind, a need for clarity versus the instinct for caution. Yet, The idea that conducting this journey in silence might be her biggest mistake slowly took root. If she truly wanted to transform her life and her art, maybe she needed to embrace the discomfort of the unknown, not just the artistic risks but the personal ones as well. When the afternoon sun flooded her living room, she navigated her thoughts towards a more proactive approach. Each introspective decision hewn with the realization that every artist must face conflicts head-on whether they resided within or without. The urgency of that unknown message pulsated like a fresh wound, energizing her desire to shield herself from external judgments. With her senses ignited, Sarah decided to confront the uncertainty. She crafted a reply. "I'm intrigued. Who is this?" The short, simple message felt monumental, an act of courage toward claiming her narrative instead of allowing it to be dictated by someone else's insight. As soon as she hit send, an electric charge coursed through her veins. The vehement desire to capture motherhood through art and the accompanying uncertainty could not be suppressed. They were mechanisms for genuine discovery, intertwined facets of her identity she was ready to embrace. Minutes turned to hours, but no response came. Instead, she spent the evening planning the photographs she would take, each framing revealing a newly empowered Sarah. The messages exchanged with Mark began to solidify her resolve, convincing her that this collaboration could serve as the perfect ignition point for her, or perhaps an anchor. Then, as she stood peering into her camera, one more ping echoed through her phone, bringing her heart to a standstill. "You think your story is just yours? Think again." The chilling words left her shivering, a shadow cast over her artistic aspirations. In that moment, she understood a deeper conflict loomed, and she was left questioning not just who had discovered her plans, but whether any part of her story could genuinely remain hers to tell. What lay ahead was unclear as she whispered to herself. This was only the beginning of a tumultuous path filled with unforeseen challenges. Yet she felt ready to discover what darkness might follow her pursuit of light. As daylight faded into the early night, Sarah paced the floor, her internal dialogue a cacophony of self-reflection and urgency. Shadows danced in the corners of her living room, mirroring the doubts that clawed at her composure. She was a mother, a creator, and now, a woman who had invited the unknown to her doorstep. The cryptic message echoed in her mind, a chilling reminder of the fragility of control. "You think your story is just yours? Think again. Who could this be? Did they truly see her more clearly than she saw herself?" Questions churned relentlessly as she struggled to focus on her project. Each image she envisioned seemed clouded by increasing uncertainty. With a twinge of impatience, she picked up her camera, its weight reassuring against her fingers. But it was more than just hardware, it was both weapon and shield, a tool for personal exploration and artistic expression. She took a deep breath, adjusting the settings to capture the soft light falling through her curtains. The act of photographing her daughter had always granted her clarity. She positioned the camera towards a vibrant painting her daughter had created, colors splashed with abandon across the canvas, reflecting unfiltered joy. Framing the shot, Sarah felt a flicker of inspiration rise within her. It was not merely a picture of a drawing. It represented resilience, a vivid testament to the process of encouragement, madness, and innocence that came with being a mother. As she pressed the shutter, an overwhelming wave of realization struck her. This wasn't merely an experiment in photography, this was a movement towards vulnerability in her art. Each photograph she intended to create would expose not just her daughter's world, but her own. The echoes of their shared experiences spoke volumes about courage, love, and fear. Driven by newfound energy, she grabbed her notebook again, scribbling furiously about ideas and concepts ready to be crystallized through a lens. But the tension of the unknown loomed heavily in the background, like an uninvited guest at her creative feast. Each time she settled back to her planning, the ping of her phone would pull her into a whirlpool of anxiety. What if this message was an omen, warning her of the consequences of baring her soul? Shaking off the thought, she returned to her project. Inspiration poured through her, igniting ideas for capturing moments that uttered the truth of their lives. As the night wore on, Sarah found herself working with a fervor she had only dreamed of rekindling. The photographs began to take form in her imagination, each telling a story she was willing to share. Each deliberate click would invite honesty and the chaos of motherhood into the gallery of her life. Yet as she envisioned her shots, another question gnawed at her, a deeper moral quandary. If she revealed these fragile moments, could they be weaponized? What if someone twisted her narratives into something hurtful? Could the honesty of her art withstand the scrutiny it might invite? A sudden resolve washed over her. The profound truth of her journey, the path steeped in vulnerability and strength, was fundamentally hers to navigate. The fear of judgment should not mute her voice. Rather, it could serve as a catalyst, transforming her experiences into powerful art. Just before she set her camera down for the night, another notification made her stop. A message awaited on her phone, its force palpable from across the room. You think transparency is protection? Try again. This time, the chill that enveloped her felt different, a foreboding warning against vulnerability as she shivered. What truths could be hiding in the shadows of those words? Almost instinctively, she felt the urge to retreat, to protect the raw honesty she planned to explore through her photography. But deep down, an ember of defiance glowed. It was time to decide whether to run from or run toward the darkness that loomed. With each photograph taken, Sarah felt more alive and emboldened, but the battle within was far from over. She was ready to embrace her truth. But could she face the reality of others knowing it? It was a momentous crossroads on her journey of self-discovery. As the weight of her decision settled in, Sarah realized her story might never be her own alone. Others would inevitably shape it, just as she would craft her narrative through the art she created. With this new understanding, the question echoed within. What sacrifices must she make to authentically share her story without losing herself in the process? The connection between her art and her life hung precariously in the balance, and Sarah stood ready to confront whatever dark truths awaited her in this exploration. The sun danced through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow as Sarah stood with a determined resolve. Today marked the beginning of a new chapter in both her life as a mother and an artist. The messages from the unknown sender still echoed troublingly in her mind, threatening to dampen her enthusiasm. But she had resolved to channel that energy into something meaningful. As her daughter scurried around, lost in the joys of childhood, Sarah gathered her thoughts. The project she had envisioned, the Mother-S lens, was no longer just a series of photographs. It was to be a testament to her life, her struggles, and most importantly, her triumphs. Each captured moment would embody the essence of her journey, merging the mundane with the extraordinary. After breakfast, Sarah grabbed her camera and ventured outside, the crisp air filling her lungs with inspiration. She wanted to create art that resonated with the beauty of the everyday. Today, it was time to document a little adventure with her daughter that went beyond the traditional playdates. They would embark on a nature walk, searching for the small wonders hidden in the world around them: broken twigs, spots of sunlight filtering through leaves, and laughter echoed in the quest for the perfect image. As they explored, each tick of her camera captured the raw purity of childhood, the simple pleasure of collecting pine cones, the carefree spirit of chasing butterflies, and the gentle hugs shared under the towering oak trees. For the first time in a long time, Sarah felt completely present. With each photograph she clicked, she was reclaiming a part of her that had long been dismissed, buried under duties and expectations. Upon returning home, Sarah beamed as she reviewed the day's images. Each frame told a story, revealing her daughter's essence and Sarah's interpretations of motherhood. There were the joyful smiles, the crowded canvas of dandelions, and the moments of candid connection that breathed life into her narrative. Here she was, feeling a surge of accomplishment as the shadows of doubt began to recede. She was transforming her life one photograph at a time. Later, that evening brought with it the anticipated rendezvous with Mark. The conversation they would share felt electric, wrought with possibilities. When he arrived, Sarah could see the spark in his eyes as he reviewed her work, his passion evident as he explored the images she had created throughout the day. "You've captured beauty that is all too often overlooked," he remarked, motioning toward her best shots. "These photos tell an authentic story about love, connection, and resilience." As they discussed each piece, Sarah felt an exhilarating wave of validation wash over her. Not only was she sharing her art, but she was also showcasing her growth. It wasn't just about the photographs. It was about the narrative they represented. The external validation fortified her internal resolve. This purpose they shared didn't just validate the work, it actively rewrote her story. Let us get these out there, Sarah, Mark suggested warmly. You need to share this with the world. With that encouragement, a renewed sense of commitment flooded her. It was time to confront her fears of vulnerability and rather than shrink, step boldly into the light, exposing those raw moments to the broader community. With Mark's support, she could create an exhibition that would showcase both her journey as a mother and a budding artist, allowing her to take ownership of her narrative. That night, Sarah sat at her desk, eager to outline her plans for the showcase. The fear that had loomed over her, the dread sparked by the anonymous message, now transformed into fuel for intention. She would craft a series of explorative narratives that intertwined her artistic vision with threads of her life. Before she knew it, the clock ticked past midnight, and Sarah felt her heart swell with gratitude. For once, she was honoring both her passions and her responsibilities without fear of judgment. The words of the shadowy figure who had attempted to intimidate her lost power in the face of her authentic ambition. She was ready. Tomorrow would mark the beginning of her commitment to representing her life through art, shedding the last remnants of self-doubt. This journey of unveiling her true self was no longer just about overcoming her past, but crafting a brighter future grounded in creativity, passion, and confidence. As she prepared to close her laptop, another text came through. It was from Mark, excited for tomorrow. You've got this, Sarah. His unwavering support echoed like a drumbeat of encouragement within her. With a satisfied sigh, she turned off the lamp and climbed into bed, determination flowing through her. Armed with her cameras and fueled by ambition, Sarah was ready to embrace whatever awaited her story, reinstating ownership over her narrative and accepting the beautiful chaos that lay ahead. This was her moment, and she would seize it fearlessly. It was not merely about the photographs waiting to be taken. It was about embracing the woman she had fought so hard to illuminate. Make no mistake, she was on the precipice of something significant. Now, you need to seize your moment. Subscribe immediately to this channel to not miss our next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it truly makes a difference. Comment below with your thoughts and reactions. How does Sarah's journey resonate with you? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support.